Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid it. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah. Welcome to Writeopolis, featuring authors RJ Barker, Scott K. Andrews and Kid Power, and, often, a guest. Writeopolis is recorded live via Discord on alternating Sunday evenings. A conversational show with audience participation. Bark on without the BS. Funded entirely through the generosity of our Patreon backers. Patreon.com/Writeopolis Podcast. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid it. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.
Now recording.
Hello, Kit. Turns
Hi.
out if you're not in the voice chat room, no one can hear you.
See, I was just about to take credit by saying I cast my summon RJ spell, but you've blown that now, so
yeah,
never mind.
I have to. Is Scott there somewhere, or can we not hear Scott?
No idea.
Oh, we're going to have to tell Scott that you have to be in the voice chat room in case you didn't know after a year of doing this. I better let Mike speak in a second, and then we'll do our intro.
You're not suppressing Mike, are you?
I am suppressing Mike. It's fun suppressing people.
Outrageous behaviour.
He's unsuppressed now.
There's a reason people don't come back on the show, RJ. You know that. There's a reason we don't get returning guests. This is why.
It's because we don't invite them.
Well, that too.
Should we try to see? Mike's a fancy guest now, and you should be able to speak, Mike Brooks. We can't hear him.
Mike, if you can't hear us, say something.
Or type something. Try speaking, Mike. I don't know if he's ever... Oh, he is speaking. Okay.
Okay.
Scott can't hear anybody. Try. I was in the general voice chat, and I think it kicked me.
Oh, there we go. Scott's in.
Hello, everybody.
There he is.
Hello.
I'm Scott, the new trainee. Thank you, Katie, for helping me.
So it says Mike Brooks is in there. Why isn't it working? Right, let's have another go. He's not suppressed.
No.
Let's turn him into Kit.
What is push to talk and how do I push? Mike, a question for the ages.
Do you have to be on push to talk or not be on push to talk?
Not on it.
Not on push to talk.
Yeah, so I think you need to, I think it's somewhere in the settings, but
you do that yourself, don't you?
Someone who knows what they're talking about, however.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you click on the cog, that brings up a whole new page of settings, one of which is voice and video on the left-hand side. Within voice and video, there is input mode, and you have either push to talk or voice activity. If it's on push to talk, change it to voice activity, and we'll see if that does the trick.
Wow, that was good. Before I forget, I've got to tell you what Lindy said.
Voice activity.
Hey! We've got Brooksy in. Do you mind if we call you Brooksy? I don't know why.
Why the fuck do people keep calling me Brooksy?
Why would anyone?
It just occurred to me now. Probably because it gets that reaction, probably.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like the only people who ever called me Brooksy was a distinct subsect of people that I knew, like, in mid to late 90s in a certain social situation. So whenever everyone else uses it, it's just like, what the hell?
Do you think it's because we've all been watching the Nirvana documentary that was on the BBC, and we've all sort of regressed back to the 90s? It could be that. But I was going to say, my wife said to me earlier on, said, Kit's so good at this, isn't he? He's really good. He remembers stuff. He's a really good interviewer. And then she said, and he got Scott. And he's a bit like a mother hen. He's really good at looking after you. He's got all those facts. And I was waiting for her to, like, say why I was really good. But it never came. And I was going, and me, What am I, the like comedy sidekick? And she went, well, I suppose, but Kit's quite funny as well. And I was like, she's just sacked me. My own wife has sacked me from our podcast, which is quite upsetting. So I need you to write a harsh letter, Kit.
No, I'm as you know, a huge fan, so I couldn't possibly do that. No, that's wonderful. That's cheered me up. I mean, it is all your fault, I guess. We do have to say that in fairness.
Should we do an intro?
I would like to point out. I'd just like to jump in and point out that I was previously suppressed next to the mic icon on my thing is a pair of headphones icon which says deafen, and I feel personally attacked.
Yeah, that is insensitive. Yeah.
But that genuinely wasn't our fault.
No.
Yeah, right.
We need to write an angry letter to Discord because we didn't come up with that.
Yeah. Right. We'll do an intro. I think
that's a good idea.
Yeah, it is. We've only been at it for 8 minutes. I think that's quite quick for us.
Might be a new record.
It might be. Welcome everybody to Writeopolis. I don't know how many people are here. So it's quite a lot here tonight. Obviously, Mike has brought a fan club. It's me, RJ Barker, as usual. Kit, who we have to congratulate because he is a British Fantasy Awards final shortlisted author now, which is
correct. Yeah,
brilliant thing.
Unlike you, RJ, I am actually still too street to win, though. I will say that. Unlike certain other sellouts on this call who ended up winning, I'm actually too street to win. You know where it's at.
Still an underground author.
That's right, absolutely.
Very jealous while I roll around in my bed of money. God, I wish I did. Oh, I'd be unbearable. And Scott, the trainee, who sounds remarkably like Scott K. Andrews, it's quite uncanny.
I've been following him for years. He's taught me everything I know.
That's fantastic. And this week our guest is Mike Brooks, who is an everything author: fantasy, science fiction, Warhammer 40k, and probably something else.
Technically science fiction as well, but
is it? I think it has its own little
God.
thing, and something else that I feel sure I'm forgetting because it's 8:30 on a Sunday, and I was up till 2:00 last night because of children.
Is it? Well, God, what else have I written then?
I don't know. Should we just
I don't know either. Science fiction, fantasy, Warhammer 40,000. I don't think I've written anything else.
Oh, no essays.
No what?
Essays. Anything like that?
Oh, essays!
Yeah.
You and your strange, whimsical northern pronunciation. I thought you were saying essays. You're just like, yeah, I'm fairly sure I've used the letter S a few times. It's quite hard to avoid, really.
Yeah. Real writers don't actually use the word letter S or and I tell everybody who asks me how to write that they're facts, so we don't have to put up with the competition later on.
Makes sense to me.
We usually start off
those bastards.
We usually start off talking about what media we have consumed. Though we should probably talk about.
When you say consumed, is that like we are Unicron?
Yeah. Well, actually, that comes from the books I'm reading. But we should probably talk about FantasyCon because Writeopolis was at FantasyCon.
Yes.
Yes.
Two thirds of Writeopolis was at FantasyCon.
2/3 of Writeopolis.
I was sat at home coughing up my spleen.
Yeah. And excuses.
That's true. Actually, you know what? Actually, we probably should. Are you okay, Scott? I mean, seriously, are you feeling better?
I mean,
you have technically had COVID, which is, that's a thing.
It turned out in the end not to be COVID. This is what's been so weird. My daughter had COVID, and she self-isolated in the house. And shortly after she started self-isolating, because she was in a terrible state, both my son and I turned into walking phlegm factories. And we just sort of naturally assumed we'd got COVID. And we kept doing tests, and they kept coming back negative, and we kept feeling more and more like death. But in the end, it turned out that Tom and I just had like really heinous colds, and Kitty had the COVID and somehow managed not to give it to us. It's very odd.
That cold is a monster because I've had it. It wouldn't go away.
Yeah, it is bad. I'm still a bit of a wreck.
People are already asking, where does Smalley like hands come from?
You have created a complete monster with that phrase. I feel that phrase will haunt Writeopolis for the rest of the running. Like, you never know, do you?
We need to explain what we did. We didn't want to do Writeopolis as it is in this because they wouldn't let us have an indeterminate amount of time just to talk about crap. So we did an hour-long quiz show.
Strange how that worked out.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was very unreasonable of them. We did a quiz show based around 1-star reviews, and Smalley Like Hands was one of the reviews of Moby Dick. And it nearly killed Laura Maro. She just couldn't. She couldn't cope with it.
Oh God.
Yeah. So there you go. But anyway, well, should we start with the guest? And do we need to say anything else about Fantasy Con? We had a really good time, I think.
No, I think we've covered the highlights really. Live Writeopolis was awesome. We all had a wonderful time. It was lovely to see everybody.
Yeah. And then you were robbed at the end of it.
I was robbed, but so was Stark. So I feel okay about it, to be honest.
That's true. Stark Cobham was also. It would have been hard if you'd won and then Stark had come back on, or vice versa.
Either would have been awkward.
Yeah. But you got a pen.
I did. Yeah, no, that's super cool.
I'm quite jealous of that pin, actually, because you can't just stick the award to you and walk around with it on. Where the pin, you can do that, can't you? So, anyway, Mike, what have you been watching and or listening to or reading or whatever recently?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have been. Let's see. I have been reading something that you recently read, I believe, RJ, an advanced copy of a forthcoming novel from Orbit. I'm going to get the title wrong now. The King's Justice.
Justice of Kings by Richard Swan.
Justice of Kings.
Yeah.
Right words, wrong orders. Close enough.
Are you enjoying it as much as I did? Because I loved it. It was literally exactly what I would want to read. In fact, it annoyingly, it had a lot of things in it I would want it to do later on. But
I don't know if it's Richard Swan, the author.
Yeah.
So the confusing thing of the book that I've got does not actually have the name of the book on the cover, nor the name of the author on the cover. So I don't know if he is a fan of Games Workshop, but it occurs to me very much while reading it, this is a bit what it would be like if an Inquisitor from Warhammer 40,000 was doing investigations in the Warhammer Old World.
I think that's because this is going to annoy Warhammer 40,000 fans, but because Warhammer 40,000 is very derivative of 2000 AD. And
RJ coming out swinging with the opinions.
Warhammer 40,000 is derivative of everything.
But I've spoken with Richard.
In fairness, over the decades, it has kind of managed to meld it into something vaguely approximating its own.
It's fascinating and wonderful. Yeah. It's Judge Dredd, and I know for a fact, and Matthew Shardlake by C.J. Sansom that are the things that it would not. But I can also see Dan Abnett's Inquisitor books in it as well. Now you've mentioned that kind of beaten down feel. Yeah.
But so I've been reading that. I've been watching Avatar: Legend of Korra actually, which I had not seen before. Having recently finished Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time. I've been rewatching She-Ra on and off because that's just my life now. Last night I watched the new Netflix movie Kate about the assassin in Japan.
Yeah, I had to go at that, but I noped out of it.
Yeah, fair.
At about the point her teeth were falling out.
That
was just. Yeah, but just for people that don't know, you have what looks like lots of lines tattooed on your shoulders, but they're not, are they? They're a thing.
Sorry, what?
Just for people that when you talked about She-Ra, you have what looks, if you just glance at it, like lots of lines tattooed on your shoulders, but they're not, are they? They're more than that.
They are not just lines, no. They are, in fact, artwork, which I designed myself, I will have you know, inspired by the opening card title sequence of She-Ra, in which text from the first one's writing that's used in the show is incorporated, and so my left shoulder says, "We must be strong," and my right shoulder says, "We must be brave," which are lines from the theme song.
Nice.
Excellent.
Because, you know, when I nerd out on something, it's like astronomical levels. There is no half measures when I go full nerd.
When they said go big or go home, you took that to heart, didn't you?
I
respect that.
I took the big and I made it my home.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed the first series, but I didn't go back to it. But I think that's mostly because my son watched it in his room without me and didn't tell me. So it's kind of rude. I think that's possibly a criminal offence. But I mean, unsurprisingly, Arj, I would recommend that you do watch the rest of it because it gets so much better than the first season. But anyway, I might do, because I've heard a lot of people have said it's a bit like Voltron, and it starts off and it's very much for children, and then as you go on, it gets to be much more than that. Which I mean. Really.
But I think that's fair. I think it is the entire thing is thoroughly suitable for children, but as if you're watching it as an adult, you can see a lot of other things that maybe you appreciate from a more global perspective than children might. But yeah, no, I think it goes a lot of very. Season 4 and 5 in particular, I felt the creators just went, you know what, we're going to start taking some swings at some big issues, and they connect.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, am I right as well that it's a complete action across the 5 seasons? Like it actually does form a 5-season narrative?
Oh yeah, no. Stuff crops up in season 4 and season 5 that's first sort of just been vaguely referenced in season 1. It's right. Each season is kind of self-contained, but it builds and builds to create the big story.
I love that in stuff. I love it when it kind of self-references it. It's a lot of joy to it. I've been reading 2 books over the past 2 weeks. I've been reading The Book Eaters by Sonia Dean, which is from Tor. I don't really want to say much. I'm quite early into it. It's really well written, and she's a Leeds writer. She was part of the Leeds Writers Group, which I think is why and it was bought by the same editor who bought My Age of Assassins, which was at Orbit, and that's really good so far. And I'm reading another book called, I need to get it for his name because it's got a brilliant name. The book's called Winter Counts, and the author is called David Hesker Wanbley Whedon, and it's
wow.
That's a brilliant name, isn't it?
That's top.
Ages ago, asking about books that were set on Native American reservations now, and really struggling to find anything because it was just something that interested me. And this is, and it's properly hard-boiled crime, and it's really good. So I recommend that. It's just come out. What about you, Scott? What are you?
What have I been doing? I've been listening to a lot of Big Finish Doctor Who audios. Specifically the ones in which David Warner plays the Doctor, which he never did on screen. So I'm enjoying those a lot because obviously he's David Warner. He's a fucking legend. But I also watched Stumptown on Disney Plus, which is a new Private Eye show. I'm enjoying that.
Oh.
But I know you like Private Eye. Have you watched Terriers yet?
No.
Just you letting the side down, man. Terriers and then Stumptown. They're both wonderful. But the big thing today is I just came back from seeing No Time to Die.
Oh. Oh, really? What a report, Scott.
Yeah.
You've written one.
In my head, yeah. I did a rewatch of all the Craig movies with my kids to lead up to... We all went to go see it today. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil things. There were things.
No, I'd rather you didn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
No. I absolutely. I'm being very, very, very careful. But
thumbs up or thumbs down?
Oh, thumbs up. Two big whopping great thumbs up. It is surprising that on the 25th film of a franchise, they managed to take the character and do things with him that we've never seen them do before. which is interesting and rather brilliant. And that is all I will say. I tell you what I will say. I will. I said that's all I'm going to say. I lied. The thing I think is a problem now, though, is if you look back at the previous Bonds, by the time you get to Diamonds Are Forever, Connery's played out, and everybody's thinking, for God's sake, give us Roger Moore. Yeah. By the time you get to Octopussy, Roger Moore's played out, and everyone's thinking, for God's sake, give us something else. And they didn't. They gave us 2 more terrible films. They gave us
View to a Kill, yeah.
And by the time you get to whatever that terrible Invisible Car movie was with Pierce Brosnan, it's really
Die Another Day.
Yeah, it's really clear that Brosnan is played out. So each of the previous Bonds, they've kind of run their course, and they've ended on a creative low point, and everybody's been eager for something new to come in and reinvigorate the franchise. I think the problem that they've made for themselves this time around is they've finished the Daniel Craig run on a real creative high. And I think they've got a bigger and more difficult task than they've ever had to try and find a way to reinvent the franchise for a new audience if they're going to be doing it within the next couple of years. I think it's the first time a Bond has gone out on a high. So I think that's going to cause real difficulties for the next iteration of the franchise.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Though I'm saving my cinema time for June because I loved Arrival and I want to see what he does with Dune. So I'm quite excited about that. I believe the date comes out in London, which is quite annoying. But there you go. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't know if any of you have played that.
No.
Scott.
My son is downstairs playing Assassin's Creed now, but I don't know which one he's playing.
It's you're a Viking, which is the clues in the title of Valhalla. But it's fantastic because you're like running around, and there are axes in the thing that I'm writing now, so it properly classes as research. But it gives you the choice at the beginning of whether you want to be a male or female Viking, which is really interesting. And I played and if you let it choose itself, be careful not to spoil it for anyone that might play it. It makes you the female Viking. That's not going to spoil anything for most things, and the male Viking for some things. But I found myself, you can change it, and I've changed it to the male Viking purely because he's got such a lovely voice. And I like, while he's like murdering people with an axe, I like listening to him. But they've glossed over a lot of how terrible it was. So every so often you'll just think, hang on, I'm raiding a monastery. That this is very bad, actually. But it's tremendous fun. It's really well. If you liked Assassin's Creed, you will like it. It's more of the same stuff. And I watched the Nirvana documentaries that are on the iPlayer this week as well. I watched the Nirvana in Britain, and I watched the Making of Nevermind, which is an old one that is on there, and they're both really fascinating. Partly for how confused I am about time, because I saw Nirvana when they toured Nevermind, but before they were famous.
Right.
Wow.
And
was that the university tour that they talk about in the documentary, right? Yeah.
I saw them at Bradford University. And the weirdest thing is, my wife was there. We didn't know each other. And all of my close friends from this area were all there, and we didn't know each other. And not that many people went because they weren't massive at the time. And I remember standing there watching Kurt Cobain and thinking, you do not want to be here. You're not a happy fella. But if you speak to my other half, she will tell you it was the most amazing gig ever. And he did want to be there and he loved it. But one of us was on acid. So I don't know which one you want to believe. But I can't place that moment in my mind. I can't. It's a really weird thing. I don't. And I was thinking if I ever wanted to write something historic, it's like based in the 90s, I would just fail because I can't even. It must have been 91, 92, I think.
It must have been, yeah.
Yeah, but
because 91 was Nevermind's release. there's a moment, I've probably talked about it too many times now, but there's an amazing moment on MTV's Headbangers Ball in August of 1991 where, unknown to everyone involved, the baton was officially handed over. They do Album of the Month, and Lon Friend, who runs it, says, I know I'm supposed to do one album, but I'm actually doing 3. And here's the first 2, and he holds up Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2, and he says, "This is it. Guns N' Roses are back. They're badder than ever. They're kicking ass and taking names. This will change your life. It's amazing." And then he says,
"And here's was a lie, though, wasn't it?"
That turned out to be wrong. Yeah. But then he holds up album number 3, which is Nirvana's Nevermind, and he says, "This also comes out this month, and this will also change your life." And he was right about that.
Yeah.
But it's funny because at that moment, what he didn't realise was in the introduction of Nevermind, he was actually, effectively sounding the death knell for Headbangers Ball and everything that it represented. It's a really kind of amazing moment that you look back on and think, like, yeah, that's the cultural pivot point. The fact that those 3 albums did come out in the same month, and one of them, was, really, let's face it, Use Your Illusion was the death knell of hair metal by itself, because it was just like it was the time that the most dangerous band in the world turned into Tom and Jerry. But at the same time, here comes Nirvana, and it's like nothing you've ever heard.
And it's really, because I remember hearing Smells Like Teen Spirit for the first time and being massively disappointed in it, because I like Bleach, and I got Bleach, and I think part of that disappointment was the realization immediately upon hearing it that, because I was a proper dick, that this was not my band anymore.
Yeah.
That I'd lost that secret thing that I'd found.
Yeah, because they were going to belong to the world after that.
Yeah. And there's a really interesting thing on the documentary about the album about an American. He's saying, Kurt Cobain knew that he had a message that there were a lot of young people out there that needed to hear, and he knew how to get that message out and how to market it to them. And I've never heard somebody say something and thought that's a misunderstanding of what an artist is.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe for 1 second he thought about that.
Nope.
That's somebody making a product, and he wasn't.
No.
He made a thing. Is Nevermind, because you're a bit younger, Mike, is Nevermind sort of pivotal for you, or is it kind of old stuff?
It's kind of. I think what you've got to bear in mind is that I didn't listen to any music until about 1995, because for basically that we didn't really have much music in my house, for one reason and another. And my introduction to alternative music came when I was in a tent on a scout campsite in the summer of, I think, 1995, when someone with a battery-powered stereo was playing Smash by The Offspring. And I heard that and was like, hang on, okay, this is music with lyrics that actually mean something. It's not pop music. And that was my discovery of alternative music. So obviously by that point, Nevermind had come out, Kurt Cobain was dead. And so I kind of sort of started tracking back and finding out what I'd missed. But there wasn't that thing of this is a thing that, because I would have been 9 when Nevermind came out, so it wasn't sort of I can and I will.
No, we deserve it. We do deserve it.
But surely it's past Mike's bedtime now, though.
The thing is, you say that, but the newest member of my band, I don't know exactly how old she is, but I think she must have been born around about maybe just before the turn of the century, shall we say? So yeah,
we can say that. That's horrendous.
I know.
I saw ABBA in concert. She
was very, very likely. She's somewhere in her early 20s, and here's me on 39. So yeah, I'm starting. You see, I don't feel old, but then there are people younger, and like several of my friends are. Most of my friends are a few years younger than me, and people hit like 35 or something, and I'm looking and going, really? You're 35? Christ, I feel old. I don't feel old, but you getting old makes me feel old.
Yeah.
Yeah, when people say Nevermind is 30 years ago, I definitely suddenly think I am actually grown up now, even though my mind doesn't think I am.
Nah, you're an adult. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I had an absolute turn to dust moment involving Guns N' Roses, but I'll say all I'll say on this show, because I know some of you have heard the story, and I certainly don't want to repeat myself. But if you listen to one of my other podcasts, the Human Bondage podcast, where I watch the James Bond movies in order, the episode we just released on Live and Let Die features a moment where I discover, to my horror, just how old I am in real time, and it's genuinely, it's hilarious, but genuinely it's one of the most life comes at you fast moments I've ever experienced. And it's kind of wonderful that we caught it on tape, that we got it recorded. So yeah, if you fancy hearing me realise in real time that I am now officially an old man, listen to Human Bondage, Live and Let Die, and it's a fairly spectacular moment.
I am 50 next month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, you're a bit old to be a trainee. You should have worked harder.
Life is everlasting learning, RJ.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can't believe I did that. Sorry, Scott. I want to talk about another thing that I've been watching just because I've become slightly obsessed by it. And to use Kit's phrase, it's totally your phrase now. Propaganda. It is the most propaganda thing I've ever watched in my life. It's SWAT on Netflix, and it's brilliantly weird because it's like a 90s cop action thing that was definitely what they wanted to do. That has run smack bang into the fact that nobody trusts the police anymore. Yeah. And I'm sort of partway through season 2, and by this point, I think it's become immensely subversive because we have the boss of the SWAT team is black, and that's like a thing. And there's a brilliant episode where the guy who was actually next in line, they're trapped in the woods being hunted by people with guns because that's what happens when you're in SWAT. And they're sort of, he's saying, well, it should have been me, not you. And they have this big conversation about how he wasn't just jumped in because he was black. It was because he was really good at his job. But actually, plot-wise, he was jumped in because he was black. They specifically, this first episode is just about that. And they kind of, you can see them working out as they go along that maybe they can't do what they wanted to do. and by partway through episode 2, there's a bisexual officer who is joining a polyamorous threesome. And it's one of those things where this is like a proper middle of the road show. You just think you didn't have to go there, but it's kind of brilliant that you are doing. And then the next episode is, but SWAT do really need a submarine because what if a ship gets hijacked? And it's just like, and it's just so tonally strange. I recommend watching a few of them because they will make you angry. But I think somebody on the script team is just like, but I can get these things in that are going to make people who would never usually think about these things think about them, and it's just kind of lovely because of that.
I do love those moments when you're watching a show and you can kind of feel the writer's room just give up and do something else. The big one for me was season 6 of 24, where they established at the start of the season that there's 3 nuclear bombs that he's going to have to track down and deal with. And the first 8 episodes is Nuclear Bomb 1. The second 8 episodes is Nuclear Bomb 2. And it's clearly set up that the final 8 episodes is going to be Nuclear Bomb 3. But they lose all interest in the Nuclear Bomb 2 plot halfway through about episode 15. They wrap the whole thing up at the end of episode 16 and then introduce a completely new storyline just out of nowhere because they realise they're writing shit. It's hilarious. It's like there's a whole 30-minute sequence at the end of one episode that's just an enormous writer's room shrug. Like, how can we get rid of this fucking storyline as fast as possible and do something else? It's so funny. And you see shows do that sometimes. The West Wing did it as well.
Yeah, big time.
Writer's gone mad. Has anyone been watching Goliath with Billy Bob Thornton?
Yes, I've watched. I've watched all 3. Unless there's a new season, I've watched
season
the first
4 has
3.
just come out.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet, but the first 3 were great. I love that show.
Season 4 is definitely the last one. They've said it's the last one. They're not planning on doing another one. And the writers have just gone right. They were weird before, but the second episode opens with a full Busby Berkeley style musical number about opiates and selling them to people. They
really started letting their hair down on season 3. I thought season 3 it wasn't quite there, but there were moments where there were inches of David Lynch. I thought, there's bits where it's like. It was kind of Lynch infused almost. I just adored it.
I was saying about the musical episode. We were watching Agent Carter because we'd missed it when it first came out, but it's now cropped up on Disney Plus. So we're sort of a few years behind time. We're watching Agent Carter, and you get to the end of season 2, which is set in Hollywood, and she's been knocked out, and it starts with a 5-minute musical number.
Brilliant.
With Hayley Atwell and the various other characters, and I was just watching it going, I wonder if the writers knew by this point that the show was cancelled, and just decided to go, well, fuck it, we don't care. Like, okay, we've got 5 minutes in this episode that we can't really spin the rest of the plot out enough to fill it, so let's have a musical number.
I love stuff like that. But I think Goliath. The thing about Goliath is that I'm not interested in Billy Bob Thornton. It's Patty.
Yes,
who I want to watch.
She's glorious. Yeah, I mean, to go back briefly to what you were saying about SWAT and the representation stuff alongside this rather blatant propaganda. It does remind me of that joke I remember floating around Twitter a couple of years ago, where it was like neocons, more war, socialists, less war, liberals. Half of all war criminals should be women. It's that kind of. I did feel like it was hitting that kind of vibe for what you were saying, which
it kind of is. I'd love to sit and watch you watch one of the season 2 episodes, just for the mixture of pure anger. Kind of like we do need a paramilitary police force with a tank. And then you go,
that is not at all unrealistic. There are US police forces with tanks.
Yeah,
look, they were making jokes about this as far back as Die Hard, right? There's the moment in Die Hard where the guy says, "Oh, look, the cops have got an RV.
Send in the car. Send in the car."
Like, the militarization of the cops in the US is not a new thing at all. I'm sure LAPD have got tanks. I'd lay money on it.
Oh yeah.
And they're very caring in SWAT as well.
Yes, well, obviously.
They care about the community.
Talking of propaganda, so on your recommendation, RJ, I watched Manhunter. Was it Manhunter? The Martin Clunes thing. What was that called?
Yeah, Manhunt.
So I had watched season 1, it turns out, but I didn't realise there was a season 2. So the missus and I watched that. Really enjoyed it. You're right, very similar tonally to Stephen, although less pointed in some ways. Although, given recent events, maybe in some ways not any less pointed. Actually, given recent news stories, I did really enjoy that. Clunes was great, just so, and I like that kind of. I'm enjoying these. There seems to be. I've seemed to have seen quite a lot of them recently. I'm not sure why, but these stories with people sort of late middle age, approaching retirement, kind of in a story that normally would feature a kind of young detective that drinks too much, and I'm quite enjoying this, especially the kind of very kind of reserved Britishness of it. I quite enjoy that. Very, very it's like the opposite end of the scale from Luther, which I also love, although it's absurd. But you know what I mean? I like that there's that spectrum of experience out there, and I did. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. So thanks for recommending it.
It's sold on Martin Clunes, I think.
Absolutely.
So likable.
And his wife, his relationship with his wife is wonderful. I mean, that's just beautifully done. I take
it from this write-up that this is not cops behaving badly.
No.
Emphatically not. No. It is basically. I mean, in this particular one, certainly it's a guy approaching retirement age who's given like a really awful kind of I mean, it is a cold case, really, although it's not because the burglaries are still happening. But he's basically given a case that no one's been able to crack for, what is it, like 15 years or something ridiculous? 17 years of burglaries in London.
Raping old women.
That's right, yeah, God, yeah. And they just can't get anywhere with it. And he's brought in as a fresh pair of eyes. And it's great because he goes in knowing it's a poison chalice, because he's either going to piss off the current investigating officer to no real purpose, or he's going to end up getting lumped in to lead it, even though he's not had to, not been doing the legwork on it to that. And he does it anyway, because he just looks at it and says, yeah, okay, but I'd quite like to catch this guy because he's really unpleasant. And it's just superb. But he's so quiet. That's what I like about it. He's just so quiet and gentle throughout. And one of my favourite moments is early on. They go to the hospital and there's this old lady, and he's like, can I have a word with her? And the officer who's been in with the woman says, no, I'm really sorry. She's not well enough yet. She's not. And we've all seen that scene in every single police drama. What the lead hero says at that point, he says, God damn it, I've got a case to solve. Let me in there and fucking talk to. And he just says, no, all right, fair enough. And I just love it. It's so great. He's like, all right, fair enough. Well,
Did you watch
hopefully she'll,
the documentary about the real case?
No.
The documentary is also really interesting, and one of the best bits in it is there's an officer from the Black Police Officers Association, and he said he was brought in, and they said to him, "Look, we need to start swabbing people, and they don't want us to. Will you help us?" And he just goes, and I just said, "No, there's a reason. There is a very good reason they don't want you to do that, and it's difficult to fight against it, and there's stuff like and it that they all sort of." It comes across that's Manhunt is played quite close to what actually happened. You kind of get that feeling.
Well, there's that moment in Stephen, isn't there, where they're trying to recreate the attack, because they've got this. One of the issues they've got. So Stephen was about the Lawrence inquiry, and there's one of the issues they've got is this use of that it was I can't remember the phrase. It wasn't brief, but that it was a short attack, or that it was a whatever. And they want to try and get over that impression, because actually it was a frenzied attack. It did last over a minute. But they're trying to recreate the number of. So they look at the number of wounds, and then they try and recreate how it must have happened. And it's really horrible, because they decide to film it in a recreation. Obviously they're not really beating the person, it's just kind of like to count the blows and to time it. And they bring a black officer in to be Stephen no one says anything. That's the really interesting part about it, isn't it? But it's like by the end of it, you're like, whoa. It's a good bit of telly, that.
And of course, Steve Coogan's going to play Jimmy Savile next. I don't know if I can watch it. Have I told you about my run-in with Jimmy Savile?
No.
When I was a kid, yeah. Jimmy Savile came to... from my memory, pretty common knowledge in Leeds that you did not leave your kids with Jimmy Savile. But he came to do the half marathon for charity, and my dad was involved in it. And and when I was there, I said, "Can I get Jimmy Savile's autograph?" And my dad kind of said yes, but he stood there and watched me do it. And I went to Jimmy Savile and said, "Can I have your autograph, please?" And he turned around to me and he said, "Fuck off, kid." That was my run-in with Jimmy Savile.
There was a friend of mine who I won't name, who I don't know if I've told this story in this podcast before, actually, who wanted to interview Savile because he was doing a piece on organised crime in the North, and he figured Savile would have some good stories to tell, since he was very involved in the club scene and nightclubs and all of that in the 50s and 60s. And he arranged an interview with Savile to talk to him about this. And he rocks up at Savile's flat. Savile lets him in, ushers him in, and then makes a big play of sort of manoeuvring him so he's sitting in a particular seat in the living room in front of the coffee table, and then says, "I'll just go off and make a cup of tea." And he leaves the room, and my acquaintance is sitting there waiting to interview him, and he notices that on the coffee table directly in front of him is a notepad. And written on the notepad is his home address.
Whoa. No.
And he shits himself.
Yeah.
Because this is not a subtle message. Don't ask me about organised crime. So Savile comes in, gives him a cup of tea, smiles, and he softballs him some questions and legs it.
Okay, you can't blame him. But I'm pretty sure it's common knowledge that Jimmy Savile was a wrong'un.
Yeah,
in Leeds at the time.
It was known when I was working at the BBC in the late 90s. It was there were rumours.
Yeah. We've gone to a pretty dark place. Should we go on to what we've been working on?
We have.
Yeah.
Mike, what have you been working on?
Well, I have been working on something that is covered by a non-disclosure agreement.
Ooh. Tell us more.
Tell us more.
I do believe you fine fellows are attempting to get me fired.
We're easy.
It's I'm writing something for Games Workshop. I can't tell you details because otherwise, they can sue me or stop giving me work. But that is mainly what I've been working on at the moment. I was in a lovely situation of a couple of months ago. I was discussing about the timescale for this novel, and so I was like, "Yeah, should be able to get that done in a couple of months." Give till end of October, all fine. Yep, that should be fine. And then, so I start it, and then the edits from my previous Games Workshop novel land. And I think it was either a day before or a day after the edits for my third Orbit fantasy novel landed in my inbox. And both of these sets of edits I had been lurking in the ether for months. And then they both landed in my inbox within a couple of days of each other at the same time as I just started a new novel, which was a sort of...
Because you're edited by Jenny, aren't you?
This is going to be fun. Sorry?
You're edited by Jenny with Orbit, aren't you? Same editor.
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've been editing my third Orbit novel, and I have been working on what I might be trying to sell Orbit next. But most specifically, recently, I've been working on my latest project for Games Workshop.
Oh, exciting. That's
very cool.
It's nice to dip in and out between the different things of having the individual creativity of doing my own thing and then going over into another universe where everyone's already done the heavy lifting.
Oh, something made a noise. What about you, Scott?
I am 3,000 words away from finishing the novella.
Get in.
Which is due 33 days ago. And which I have to finally deliver tomorrow. So I'm pulling an all-nighter tonight to finish it off. But yeah, it feels good to have that nearly done. That's the first proper, apart from the game, it's the first proper prose thing I've written in quite some time.
And have you been enjoying it? That's the question.
Yes and no. I mean, I have. But the time pressure and the fact that we've all been ill has made it a bit of a slog. But I have enjoyed it. And I think I'm going to continue writing. I'm starting to think of what I'm going to do next. But I think for the sake of my own sanity, I have to avoid deadlines. So I'm trying to think of ways that I can continue to write sort of on my own timetable and on my own terms for the next little while. But yeah, I did a novella.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes, we're glad to hear you writing again.
Yeah, it's been fun. And I got to turn my grandfather into an action hero, which is just very gratifying.
That's wonderful.
That's properly... What about you, Kit?
So, got to the end of the novel revisions, which is fantastic. So that's going back over to the editor. We're going to give it just one more week to sit, and then I'm going to read it through again, then I'm going to send it to the editor. So that's great. That's done. I have got 2 short stories, one of which funny enough, Scott, I'm in a similar boat to you in that I basically begged the editor to extend my deadline to the end of the weekend for the aforementioned Attack of the Badgers short story. And they've agreed that I've got the first 1,500 words, so I'm going to be getting the other 2,500 tonight before I get to sleep. So, but that's fine. I know exactly what I'm doing with it. I can't wait to unleash the carnage. on the National Farmers Union Youth Group Christmas party. They're going to have a very, very, very bad party. They're not even going to get to open the crackers. It's going to be carnage, and I'm really excited about writing it. And if I play it right, the only survivor is going to be the hunt saboteur that they caught stealing from outside the village hall. So, so that's ready to rock and roll. I am also halfway through slightly more than halfway through All Hands on Deck, which is the 1815 pirate story about the pirate crew working out of New Orleans who come to a very, very sticky end indeed. And yeah, that's so obviously I've got to get the Badger story done tonight. Then I'll go back to All Hands on Deck. If I've got any time next week after that, I'll do a couple of grotesquely outstanding reviews, and then I'll get
to draw attention to what Dew has said about your Badger story, because that is a cracking pun in the chat.
I missed that. What was that?
A meles melly.
Nice.
That's a round of applause.
No, that's world class. The actual story title at the moment is The Cull, just so we're clear. But yeah, that's very, very good. Yeah. If I do steal that, you're not getting the credit, just to be clear. But everyone here will know, so I guess that's good.
So what are the reviews?
Oh, I need to review that Nine Inch Nails book that I finally finished reading, which was about the creation of the Downward Spiral, which was absolutely superb. A little bit on the dense side for me personally, but incredibly well written, very well researched, and it did give me a new appreciation of the album. So I mean, I can't really complain at that point. It kind of did what it set out to do. I felt it was a bit equivocal about whether or not the album was a good thing. I think it probably, for me personally, I think probably out of an overabundance of caution of wanting to seem impartial, it was, some of its criticisms were actually a little bit too heavy-handed for my liking at certain points, but all absolutely within the realms of fair criticism. I don't want to give the wrong impression, and it, very well written book, so that was good. I need to review Tracy's short story collection, which I finally finished recently, and was just I can't stop thinking about it. I mean, those stories just come back to me every now and then, and I'm hit with the force of them all over again. Absolutely stunning meditation on mortality and aging and life. So I need to do reviews for both of those. I can't remember what else. I'm overdue on my next Brian Keane essay as well, so I need to write my essay on the Earthworm Gods Selected Tales from the End of the World short story collection, which I read some time ago now. So yeah, plenty of stuff to be getting on with.
I'm sort of in the end game part of my next fantasy novel, which is quite fun because the world is still sort of becoming, what I'm writing about is still becoming clear, so I'm going to have to go through it again once I finish it. But I think I should finish it in the next 2 weeks, and then I'll talk to my editor about maybe missing my deadline by a bit, because I think I can make it a lot better than it is. And of course, The Board Ship's Wake was released this week, so that's been quite big.
Congratulations! I've seen a lot of very good reviews for that.
Yeah, it's been quite exciting. Quite pleased how people have responded to it. It's been really nice, and it's really weird. Like FantasyCon, and then a book coming out straight afterwards, and then you kind of have afterwards. I just feel like there's like a blanket over me, and I'm a bit sort of I don't really want to do anything. I meant to do a promotional video. My mind is just completely blank as to what I'm going to do. So I was meant to do that today, but I utterly failed. But I'm looking forward to writing the endgame. I know how I'm finishing this book now, which I'm quite pleased about. And then go back and slam through it. I'm 119,000 words in, so it'll probably be about 140 when I finish it. And then I'll have copy edits for the second. Well, I won't. Well, I will, because I do the work for him, but I'll be doing copy edits on the second Mal and Jackie book just after that, which is called Incy Wincy. And it goes into the... We find out a lot more about Jackie in the second book.
Said, yeah, this is Jackie's story, right? Yeah, I'm really, really excited about that.
Yeah, I'll send you it once I've done it. But that's sort of been my work last week. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I'm sure something happened that I was going to tell you about, but maybe it didn't. quite tired, actually.
Well, Katie did give away the fact that one of the things that happened at Writeopolis was I did actually do a reading of my as yet unpublished King Kong short story.
Yes.
So I read that as part of the
It's not a King Kong story, though, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
no, it is. King Kong, I believe, is out of...
Yeah, but it also has a giant lizard in it.
It does have a giant fire-breathing lizard who is absolutely not in any way Godzilla. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That is true, yeah.
Is it a Dimetrodon?
Why not?
Yeah, which is not a dinosaur.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, which is a fact that I learned at Writeopolis Live last week.
Yep.
Even though I had actually was the progenitor of this fact. I'd completely forgotten. So Laura Mara brought up that Dimetrodon was not a dinosaur, and I was sat there going, wow, I didn't know that. And then she went, RJ told me that. And I was like, oh, do you know what? I might have made that up.
No, you're correct. Dimetrodon is not a dinosaur.
Yeah, I know. But just like I said. The other thing that I've been working on, we are slowly. If you missed Writeopolis Live and the 1-star quiz, it's very likely we'll be doing another one in the month of Christmas in London. But we don't know who our guests will be, do we? But it's quite likely happening. If you enjoyed that,
and I'll be there for that one. Hey,
you will.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Maybe. Since you mentioned the lizard that is not that lizard, my favourite fact that I discovered this week is that in the 70s, Toho entered into an agreement with Hammer to co-produce a monster movie about the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Dracula versus Godzilla.
No, it was going to be called Nessie, and it apparently opened with a truckload of steroids crashing into Loch Ness that drove Nessie insane, and he became a rampaging monster. And the script was completed, but it never got made. I now desperately want to find this script. Sorry, that's what I'm. According to Lindy, that is what I am here for. Ridiculous facts. That's my ridiculous fact for the day. It's all true.
I would totally watch that. Because has anyone ever seen a good film about the Loch Ness Monster? Does it exist?
Yes. The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
So unless you're counting The Family Ness, which was a series rather than a movie, no.
What was Sherlock Holmes doing with the Loch Ness Monster?
Don't ask.
He woke up from a cocaine binge and they just never spoke about it again. Tell us, Scott, what...
the conclusion of The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes involves Holmes, played by Robert Stevens, going up to Loch Ness to investigate sightings of the Loch Ness Monster, and it turns out to be, I think it's a German submarine that's been taken over by his brother Mycroft, played by Christopher Lee. It's pretty bonkers, but it's great. It is a good film.
Reminds me of those old Sunday sport headlines from the late 80s, early 90s about the Loch Ness Monster actually being a Nazi U-boat. That whole story about it actually contained Rudolf Hess, who'd been missing for how many years. And he was found in this U-boat in the loch, and he tried to negotiate a surrender, apparently, which was terribly amusing.
There you go. I've added the poster for the Nevermade movie to the chat because they didn't do the work.
The thing is,
that is a thing.
Yeah.
That is a thing that we're looking at.
It's meant to be scary, but there's something just not scary about Nessie. You can't make... You can't... Nessie is not scary. Loch Ness Monster, maybe. But Nessie...
No.
Mike,
It's an endearment.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a monster or a creature that you can't explain?
Sorry, was that addressed to me?
Yeah, or anyone.
I told you I'd seen ABBA in concert, didn't I?
When Mike's
No, I don't think I have. My life has been quite boring in that respect, which is pretty good.
We need to dress up as monsters. And
I mean, I've seen Guns N' Roses live 3 times, and I can't really explain Axl Rose, so I don't know if that counts.
I've never seen Guns N' Roses live, and I feel like I should have done, but I only want to see them play Appetite for Destruction. I have no interest in anything else they've ever done.
If I may, RJ, if you haven't yet, I wouldn't bother now.
Yeah.
The third time I saw them was not the best time. Actually, though, I have to say, although the third time I saw them wasn't the best time, it was one of my all-time favourite gig experiences ever. Came as a direct result of that show. So something that's happened to me, I don't know if this happens to the rest of you, but you have that thing where you meet people and you find out all you know about each other is that you like the same band, and then you find out you've been to similar gigs, and then you start having stories about, like, oh, so which ones did you go to? When have you seen them, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. This happened to me at least twice. I remember Guns N' Roses in 1993 at Milton Keynes Bowl. I'm stood around a fire afterwards with a couple of these other people. We're waiting for the crowds to die down, and we're just sitting there saying, oh, what do you think of the show? Oh, it was good. Was it as good as last time? Oh, I like this bit. I didn't like that. That song, it was good to hear that song, blah, blah, blah. And then one of them turns to me and says, so you've seen him before then? I said, yeah, I saw him in 91 at Wembley Stadium, and then obviously I've seen him here in 93 at the Bowl. And he said, oh, yeah. The best show was 92, at Wembley Stadium. The one and it's always the one you weren't at that they kind of, And I had exactly the same thing happen with Tool. I saw Tool at Brixton Academy, and they were like, oh, I had the T-shirt. Oh, was that? Yeah, you saw Tool on that tour. Yeah, I did. Which show? I was like, Brixton Academy. Which night? Saturday. Yeah, Sunday was better, I think. Like, I don't know what it is, but I finally got my own back. So it's Donington, and Guns N' Roses are played. I've gone down for the day, and I'm at the Donington services getting some food before we head out. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, oh, what did you think? And I was like, yeah, it was all right. I'm glad I saw him again. It was nice to see Slash and blah, blah, blah. And what I'm thinking is, like, it was a complete pile of shit, mate, but whatever. But you don't want to bring anyone else down, And the guy says, oh, yeah, it wasn't as good as last year's show that they did in, wherever it was, Wembley, or, like, it wasn't as good as last year, I don't think, really. And I said, yeah. I said, no. I said, yeah, fair enough. I haven't seen him since 1993. And his jaw just dropped. And he was like, oh, you saw them then? And I was like, yeah, it wasn't quite as good as that, I've got to be honest. And I just walked away feeling like 10 foot tall.
It's funny you should mention people at the same gigs as you, because as we said earlier, Rita, I married her.
Nice.
Yeah. But I met someone who saw Jane's Addiction on one of their more recent tours.
Right.
I saw them tour Nothing Shocking. And I go, I wish I'd seen that. But honestly, they were terrible. They were the worst live band I've ever seen. I think they played about 4 songs and just walked off because they were so high. But I wouldn't go see them now either, because they're just a perfectly, reasonable and competent rock band now.
Yeah.
And I have no interest in them. What is your best gig? Everybody. Let's start with Mike. Put him on the spot.
Okay, you're going to need to give me some.
To if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to have to sort through a couple of different memories. Give me some time.
Okay, Kit.
It is really difficult because there's far too many I could pick from. I think. This is today's answer. Tomorrow's answer would be different, but today's answer is going to be, because I've been listening to him a lot lately, today's answer will be 2008, I think, or 9, Madison Square Gardens, New York City, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. That was pretty exceptional. I mean, I've seen Springsteen 8 or 9 times, no more than that, I think. Always a great live act. But it was something very special about going to New York to see him. And it was the Magic Tour, which is one of those late career albums that I think is very underrated. You won't hear those songs live now, but I got to hear them at that show. And it was the Garden, and the Garden's a great venue. And I think that was the most extravagant gig I've ever been to. It was the most money I've ever spent on going to a gig, obviously, because I flew to New York.
So it was the Garden.
Yeah.
So cosmopolitan. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I've been twice. I went back with my. I took my missus there about a decade later, with my dad and his wife. We went the four of us went, and one evening my wife wanted to go to a classical music concert, so my dad and I went to the Garden and saw Queens of the Stone Age and Royal Blood. So the Garden's been pretty good to me, man.
I once went to Manchester for a gig. That's not the same, is it?
No.
Yeah, I've been to Manchester for gigs. I've seen Queens of the Stone Age in Manchester, actually.
I've not seen Queens of the Stone Age. I kind of missed them touring and I only discovered them much later on.
Oh, they were fab.
Yeah, I saw the Afghan Whigs when they reformed and came back and they played Manchester Cathedral, and I love the Afghan Whigs with a passion, and it was everything I wanted from Afghan Whigs. They played all the songs I wanted. Greg Jolly, the singer, threatened one of the audience to a fight, which is exactly what he should do, because that's what he does. But I couldn't enjoy it because it was really loud. The acoustics were amazing, and it was shaking dirt out from the ceiling of my cathedral, and it was raining down on me, and I spent the entire gig thinking they're going to literally bring the house down and we're all going to die. So although they were brilliant, it was everything I wanted. I was distracted by dirt. What about you, Scott?
Oh, difficult choice. I know what the top 5 are, but picking a top 1 is difficult.
Yeah.
Top 1 for this episode.
Top 1 for this episode. I'm going to say it's the time it was the week I arrived to live in London, and I was looking around for something to do, and I saw that Counting Crows were on at the Royal Albert Hall. And I thought, well, I'm not going to get a ticket to that. But I phoned up on the off chance, and they had just released a block of tickets that was right by the stage. And I got seat A1. And I rocked up there, and I literally had my feet up on the stage. And it was the Recovering the Satellites tour. And they were in their pomp, and it was amazing. So that's my answer for today.
I think are you ready, Mike? Or do you need more time?
Yeah, I think so. I can sort of. I'm just going to say 1, but I think the probably the best gig in terms of performance that I've been to was 30 Seconds to Mars. For the This Is War album at Nottingham Arena, which was a really, really well done gig. It was like sort of the showiest gig I've seen in terms of a performance. You know, they started off on the stage and they did several songs, and then they disappeared off, and then what's his face, actor bloke, appeared high up on one stage and did high up on one side of the crowd with an acoustic guitar and did a song, and then while people were watching him, the rest of the band had crept out to another stage in the middle of the floor. And so after he did his one song, what's his name? Jared Leto, that's it. So after he'd done his one song and they were out in the middle of the floor, they all started up with playing another song. And he had his radio mic, and he went running down to join him, and he went running down back and forth through the lines of the seating to get down to the floor. Was pursued by some desperate security guards who had obviously been charged with keeping Mr. Leto safe and had not anticipated the fact that he was going to be running through all these people and potentially putting himself in danger. Now, if you excuse me for one moment, I will have to rejoin you because it appears there may be an emergency on my close.
No worries.
So I will be. I shall return.
Okay. Well,
probably Nessie.
Yeah. Or giant lizard that we can't name for legal reasons.
Yeah.
You know what? It's terrible. As we start talking, I realise there's so many. I've been incredibly privileged. I was putting in the chat about the time. I also did go out to Colorado and saw the Black Crowes at the Red Rock Stadium in Colorado, which is where U2 filmed that live concert video in the 80s, and that was amazing. The Black Crowes playing 2 nights at Shepherd's Bush Empire. I can almost remember some of that, and it was incredibly special, magical. I've still got the bootlegs from that, which I listen to periodically, and it's nice. It's nice to have that memory because God knows at the time I wasn't really super focused.
I always thought you were a fellow working class kid, and now I know about you jetting off to America to see bands.
Well,
it's completely changed my image.
I've talked about the 2 times I've done that, and I had to save for months in both cases. But yeah, it was absolutely worth it. I've got to let's pull some stuff out from the chat as well. Katie Tree shouting out Alice Cooper. Yeah, absolutely superb live performer, super reliable. Alicia, I'm dead jealous you got to see Frankie Goes to Hollywood in the 80s. I bet that was absolutely amazing because they were. I actually so we all know what a big Bruce Springsteen fan I am. My favourite version of Born to Run is the Frankie Goes to Hollywood version. I actually think it's better than the Springsteen version. So I bet that was amazing. And some Billy Joel love. Yeah, can't really go wrong.
There was a terrific concert that they ran on BBC4 the other night from the 70s on the old Grey Whistle Test. It was just amazing.
I tell you who I hated the most seeing live.
Oh, go on.
And not for any. I don't like the music, but it wasn't particularly that. Do you remember a band called Thunder?
Mm-hmm.
Vividly.
Yeah, and I hated seeing them because you could not. It just seemed you could not go to a gig without them playing it. You just couldn't avoid them. They were everywhere, and they'd literally turn up and they would be playing. You'd be like, "Oh my God!"
I felt that way about Idlewild. There was a period there where Idlewild were like the main support band for every goddamn show I was at, and I couldn't stand them. And I swear I've seen Idlewild maybe 3 or 4 times, and that is 5 times more than I ever wanted to see Idlewild live. My favourite one, Idlewild, one of the other concerts that could have been listed as my favourite one, was so Iggy and the Stooges, right? They did that reunion tour. Again, this is probably like, I don't know, I want to say 06, 07, 08, somewhere around there. They did a reunion tour. And this completely bizarre sequence of events. There was a display at the Chelsea Flower Show called Lust for Life. They ended up winning an award, and it was for a cancer charity. A children's charity. And Iggy found out about it, and he was really upset that he couldn't be at the Chelsea Flower Show for the Lust for Life. So he put on a benefit concert at Leeds. And it was a benefit concert for this children's charity. And there's this huge lineup of bands I know nothing about and didn't like. I mean, there was The Horrors is literally the only other name I can remember. I've got the T-shirt with the whole lot on. And obviously it was Iggy and the Stooges headlining, which is all we cared about. Fucking Idlewild played that. It was Idlewild followed by Iggy and the fucking Stooges. Like, who the fuck? I want to know, right? I want to know the manager, the tour manager at Idlewild. I want to know what bodies he knows about. Like, I want to know what Polaroids that man's got. Because it was fucking absurd, man. And Idlewild played, and it was really funny. By the time they got to the end, the lead singer for Idlewild was like, well, thanks for having us, but I'm sure you'll have a great time with the Stooges. Well, if you just fuck off and let them come on. Sorry.
Katie said that she loves Thunder and they still play constantly, and I am not surprised.
I saw Thunder at Download a couple of years ago. That was fine. You know what? Honestly, Katie, I tell you what, I didn't think I was interested at all, and I was walking past and Love Walked In started playing, and suddenly I was 13 years old again with a cassette recorder recording songs off the top 40, and it was an astonishing moment. Absolute genuine goosebumps.
Jump back in, if I might, and just mention one other gig event that sticks in my mind. The gig itself was not a particularly great show. It was at Rock City. It was Silver Ginger 5, which was Ginger from the Wild Hearts side project.
I know all about Silver Ginger 5, man. Okay, sorry, carry on.
Yeah,
I'm just glad someone else has heard of him.
You just hit on one of Kit's favourite subjects.
Yeah, well, I was one of my other big favourite gigs, certainly at the time, was when I got to see Wild Hearts and Therapy on the same bill, which was great.
Fuck yes.
I went to see Silver Ginger 5, and so they play through the set, which was good enough, but for me not a patch on 90s Wild Hearts. And then they start the final song, and they've had these like sort of indoor pyros going off. Sort of while they've been playing.
That's right.
You can see where this is going. So they start the big final song. big opening call, biggest pyro yet, shoots up and sets fire to the ceiling of Rock City's main hall.
Oh, God.
And so Ginger and co. merrily play out their final song while roadies go up stepladders with fire extinguishers putting the ceiling out. Sort of while we're all sort of just gradually backing off going, okay, yep, song. But the ceiling is on fire, and this was Rock City. It probably got like 30 years of alcohol fumes up there, so there's a very real possibility that it could have the entire thing could have caught light at any moment. So that was interesting, but slightly nerve-wracking while it was happening.
I think the greatest gig I've ever been to, without question, remains Pearl Jam, when I saw them just as 10 was coming out.
I hate you.
I hated them when I went, but I
was going to say, Scott, have you heard the full Pearl Jam story? Because if you haven't, you only think you hate him.
I desperately want to see them in concert. They only ever play fucking festivals.
Yeah. When we meet up in London, I'll tell you the full story, because we've told Writeopolis it before.
Oh, Scott, you've got to hear the Pearl Jam. If you think you hate RJ now,
but I'm not going to choose that one for this. I'm going to choose Greg Dully from the Afghan Wigs. His other project is the Twilight Singers, and when I've been really, really ill and I was too ill to go out, the first gig I went to was the Twilight Singers came to the UK, and Lindy got me a ticket, and we went to see the Twilight Singers. And I was still struggling to stand, and I think it had to stick with me at the time because it was painful to stand up, and they were just amazing. And Greg Dully does. His bands do astounding cover versions. There's a version of Creep by TLC that the Afghan Wigs do that is just fantastic. And they did Hey Ya by Outkast, and it was just one, it's just a song full of joy, and he turned it into something really quite creepy. And I loved it, and it was just the fact that I'd not died and we were going out again. So we stole one of the posters off it, and the band tried to stop us, but I think Lindy talked him down and said, "My husband."
I have a very strange memory of Hey Ya by Outkast, which was I was sometime in the early 2000s. I was at we'll call it a goth festival, which was in Derby, called Carnival of Souls, and it was like an all-day event, and there was like DJs in 2 different rooms. And some of them were live bands, and there was a musician playing with his backing band in one of the rooms, and he was like he was a goth musician of some sort, and he was awful. He was soul-crushingly bad, which I think is possibly the point of goth music. But it was. I mean, goth music. Goth music, I have said before, is the only genre of music that can make sex sound boring. But so he's playing away, and everyone was literally bored out of their skulls. About half an hour of really awful gothy piano music, and then it finally mercifully ended. This was the only time I have ever heckled a musician. Because we thought he was done, and he played another song, and I was just like, just go away. Finally he did, and then the DJ plays Hey Ya by Outkast, which was just like it's like your mind stripped to gear as the paradigm changed, and everybody flooded onto the dance floor and started dancing because goths like happy upbeat music apparently. It was just such a weird shift in the previous half hour.
It's wonderful.
See, if you go to Whitby Goth Weekend, the big dance floor filler is Nelly the Elephant by the Toy Dolls.
Yep, no, I can completely see that.
That is the one that absolutely rams the dance floor. Not that I never dance, because I can't. There's no joy in it for me. I'm that goth. But me and Kip talked about this before. I'm not goth. It's all a lie. I'm very much hair metal.
Yeah.
Just don't tell my wife. She'll sulk. It's just that she dresses me. That's what she likes. Should we move on to the choosing a tune, Kit? I don't mean to spring this on you, Kit.
What are we doing now? What's the thing?
We're all going to choose a tune that we like to
really
to put on the playlist.
Okay.
And last time you made an excellent choice. So
I did.
You've set up quite a high bar for yourself.
I can't remember what it was. What did I say last time?
You did Errol Flynn by the Rocks Tomorrow.
I did. Yeah, that was a very high. That was a good choice. You're right.
Yeah.
I have my moments. That was one of them.
You notice that I'm going to you first because I'm giving Mike time to think of what tune he's
going to add to the Writeopolis playlist. Okay.
What's going on here?
You've got to use a tune for the Writeopolis playlist, in theory, that we're going to put Scott in charge of, actually, so it actually gets done.
You're going to have to send me a big list of all the things to add.
Are you quite sure of what you're unleashing here? I mean,
Yeah, you. There is a very, very high bar for what you could put on there. There's been some odd choices in the past, mostly by us.
Okay, well, I'm torn between choosing songs that I genuinely really like and choosing songs that are just bloody funny. So
no, it has to be something you like. It has to be something you listen to.
Can it be? But okay. Well, you do yours.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll give you a bit of time, Mike, because obviously, we've sprung this on you, and they sprung it on me as well. But that's okay. I can handle it.
Yeah, Kit never expects this to happen more than once. Should we go to Scott first?
Good idea.
Scott's organised. He'll have a spreadsheet.
I do. And since we're talking about best gigs, one of the other best gigs I went to was the Everly Brothers, actually, who I was obsessed with when I was younger. And it was I felt really lucky and privileged to see them before they stopped performing. And there is a cover version they do. They do a cover of House.
I thought you were going to go for the Robson and Jerome version. No, and I was going to sack you again.
No. They do a cover of House of the Rising Sun that is astonishing.
I'm up for that.
So I will choose the Everly Brothers cover of House of the Rising Sun.
I'm gonna go for because I've been watching a lot of Nirvana stuff this week, and they played a little snippet of my favourite Nirvana song, which is "School" off Bleach, which I think is an absolutely smashing song and just wonderful. One of the and it's Kurt Cobain's voice at its best when it's on the point of him ripping his own vocal cords out.
Yeah. No,
so,
solid choice.
Yeah.
There were a couple of contenders this time. There was, Iggy and the Stooges was a possibility at one point. Nirvana might have made the list, but you've already gone for it. But I think also, we haven't talked about it, and that's fine. But given the events of the last week, I think I'm going to have to go with a hip hop classic, NWA, Fuck the Police.
That's a excellent use of. Is it a foghorn that's in that song? There's some kind of siren in it that is just super.
Air raid siren, I think, but
it's people should use them more.
They should.
Just maybe that's what we should do for like a theme tune.
Air raid sirens.
Yeah.
I find it really strange because the Carter air raid siren was obviously that was the air raid thing during the war, which was way before I was born. But even though the only sort of context I've heard it in is like sort of some historical news footage and stuff, it still sounds bloody scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is just something about that noise. It's not just to sort of alert you to something. It's like it just grabs hold of your spine and goes, something is not right.
Yeah.
It's really...
Find somewhere to hide.
Yeah. Because I believe they're used as tornado warnings in America.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing. It's not like an alarm clock. That is not a sound that you can easily ignore. At least I don't think I could easily ignore it. It is very... There is something very haunting about that thing in particular.
It brings me onto a pet subject of mine, which annoys me greatly, that we don't have foghorns anymore.
You could change that, RJ. You have a bed of money.
Every so often, the foghorn above Whitby comes up for sale. The whole building. If I had the money, I would buy it and set it up again. I'd get it working.
All right.
Terrorise the whole town.
Citizens of Writeopolis, that's how we know RJ's making Stephen King money, right? That's how we know it's finally happened. Keep an eye out.
To convince my partner that she wants to live underneath a foghorn.
But think of it like this: you can sell it as if you own the foghorn, you control the foghorn.
No, she really likes really hardcore techno. So if I just put a beat behind it,
there you go.
She'd be totally up for it.
Yeah.
Because if you hear a track and you think, yeah, I can imagine this playing in a German leather boy bar, you could odds on bet my wife would love that music. I don't know what it is about it, but that's sort of her genre.
Mm-hmm.
It's things that would be on TV used in a scene that's shot in a German leather boy bar. It's a very specific genre of techno.
I'm probably going to give you a song, aren't I?
You are, yeah.
It's like I'm veering between. Do I give you like one of my very favourite songs? Do I give you? I will.
We tried to say it's a song that you wouldn't mind being stuck with.
Oh well, that tracks.
Because we try and dissuade people from choosing comedy songs unless they really love it. Have we had anyone choose a comedy song?
I mean, I am highly tempted to pick. I think it's MXPX's cover of Barbie Girl, but if I mean, because bear in mind that I used to DJ punk sets, and you can fit a lot of comedy punk covers into half an hour.
Yes,
Barbie Girl is another goth dance floor filler, guaranteed.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, bear in mind that I DJ'd for years at Nottingham Trent University's Rock Society Club Night, and people like the rock songs and everything. But if you really want to get the floor going, then you play "Taking the Hobbits to Isengard." Just as an absolute winner, but also Barbie Girl was very popular. I think I'm very tempted to go with GM Vincent and I by Comeback Kid, which is an absolutely banging tune. But I think I will go for 4 Year Strong's cover of Ironic by Alanis Morissette.
Oh, nice.
It is. There is just absolute joy behind it when they launch into the chorus. I recommend that you find it and listen to it, because it's from their album 4 Year Strong Explains It All, which is just them covering 90s tunes because they were kids in the 90s.
Right.
But yeah, their cover of Ironic, I think, is what I will give you.
Nice.
That's quite. I'm just going to point out, Fiddles has said that could this be the first episode that doesn't run over? Fiddles, we've already run over by half an hour.
Yeah, to be fair.
Do you not know it's an hour-long show?
I didn't know that. I was told that you kept going until it finishes.
Yeah, well, that's what we warned the guests on, but officially it's an hour-long show.
Officially it's an hour, yeah.
We're done now. Just out of curiosity, before we do wind up, what best covers? That's quite an interesting subject.
Favourite covers?
Yeah.
That's a deep rabbit hole to go down.
It is. I think you have to ban Johnny Cash's cover of Nine Inch Nails.
Seconded.
Yeah, you probably have to ban actually Cash's entire American 1-4 output, actually, because Cash does deliver the definitive version of many other artists' tunes on those 4 albums, which is a little unfair because he is Johnny Cash after all.
I'm tempted. Sorry.
No, so I'm going to take severe issue with the notion that Johnny Cash's version of Her is better than Nine Inch Nails.
Don't be wrong publicly like that.
Many people make that misconception. Best cover.
Yeah. But Mike is
well,
wrong.
I've already given one of my favorite covers. I will go with Crossfaith's cover of Omen by The Prodigy.
Oh, I've never even heard that.
I know the original, but I don't. Yeah, I haven't heard the cover. But I can see that.
Well, I recommend you find it, because if you want to hear Japanese dubstep metalers covering The Prodigy,
nice. And
that's
I do.
What it says.
Now I know it exists. I do want to hear it. Yeah.
It's like the original, but kind of condensed down with about twice the punch.
Okay.
There's I'm tempted by Miley Cyrus version of Doll Parts by Hole, just because it is an amazing cover.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I do kind of think she should be allowed to cover everything now. She should just have a go at everything. Miley, go and do it. I don't even like Metallica, but I listened to all the covers of the Black Album. And that's the Metallica album that I just went, I've had enough of you on. And I don't know why. But there is a rap cover of, I think it's Wherever I May Roam by, I can't remember who it's by. That I quite like just because it just destroys the original version. It's quite fun. But, oh look, Fiddles has put it up. Cross-face, not cross-face. I suppose that makes sense.
So that's probably my bad speech. I tend to mangle my TFs into H's. No, mangle my THs into Fs.
Yeah, I like Crossface as the name of a band.
Sounds like a Alice in Chains cover band, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Crossface.
I've added Sean and Knife's cover of Top of the World by the Cars.
Sean and Knife. When I saw Nirvana, Sean and Knife were the support band.
Awesome.
I just thought, you're amazing.
Awesome.
Absolutely brilliant. Just lovely. But Kate, what about you for a cover?
It's tricky. I've been kicking a few different ones around, and my mind kind of bounces off the question a little bit, especially when you eliminate Johnny Cash, which is that's quite telling in and of itself. I did mention earlier the Frankie Goes to Hollywood version of Born to Run, which I think is the definitive version of that song. And that is one of the greatest rock and roll songs ever written. So, I mean, I think I could do worse than pick that.
Yeah.
I think I could go with that.
The Springsteen ban as well.
You noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, you should remember that.
Cunningly.
Cunning.
Yeah. I have my moments. I mean, my all-time favourite cover is completely... It's a moment in time, and it's dipping back into the favourite gigs. But I saw the Drive-By Truckers playing 2 nights in Atlanta when they were doing a New Year's Eve show and a New Year's Eve show, and both nights they played for 3.5 and 4 hours respectively. And Jason Isbell would go on to have an absolutely stunning solo career as a kind of country music artist. One of the songs he would cover with the Drive-By Truckers on that and covered, I think, both nights of that show was he did a version of Moonlight Mile by the Stones, which is I think the last track on Sticky Fingers, and it was just transformational, just transcendent, just beautiful, just haunting and wonderful and amazing. But it's as much, I think my memory of that is as much about how, for me, that cover of that song by that man in that band at that moment perfectly captured a moment in time. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if I listen to it now, it might not carry the same weight or have the same resonance. But certainly in the moment, that was really special.
I don't know.
My band occasionally does a punk cover of the theme song to the Raccoons. Run With Us by Lisa Lougheed is a cracking tune.
Nice. I will say, actually, if we're going to do that, I will say the Disciples of Gonzo cover, where we started with Iggy and the Stooges' Search and Destroy, then we dropped into Salt and Pepper Push It, and went from there to Gimme Shelter, was actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
All false modesty aside, that was actually pretty fucking good. Yeah.
I was in a band that did a cover of Freeze All Right Now, and it was terrible, and I loved that song with a passion at the time, and I still do. So that's the nearest I've got to coast. I'm gonna choose David Eugene Edwards, the singer for 16 Horsepower, did an album called Blush Music, which was to soundtrack a avant-garde dance troupe, and it's mostly an album of odd noises that I bought because I'm weirdly complete. It's one of the few artists I'm completist about. And then out of The Sound of Crows comes Ain't No Sunshine. And it's astounding. It just comes out of this sort of noise, and it's this weird shimmering cover version, and then it vanishes again back into these odd noises. And I like that with the cover version when it is no longer the song it was. That's why I like Johnny Cash's versions, because they are no longer the song they were, and I think that's what makes cover version brilliant. What about you, Scott? You've gone quiet on the cover version front.
Kit, I just posted up a link to a live album that just cropped up on Spotify of Mike Cooley, Patterson Hood, and Jason Isbell doing.
That's the classic lineup. Yeah,
yeah. They do a sort of songwriters circle, and they each take it in turn playing acoustic versions of their songs.
Oh God, that's wonderful! Look at those songs.
Such a great album. I was listening to
Women Without Whiskey. Come on,
it's a
tune.
Great album. It really is just Boston.
Yeah.
Who are those people?
The guys from Drive By Truckers.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I
it's
don't know
old
that
people
band.
music, Mike.
Old music.
Apparently so. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to put in
Oh, that's magic.
Yeah, I thought that would be up your street.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
I've put in a song for Kit not to listen to. But let's not forget, he did listen to
Once.
Yes. Yeah, it happened. And he's also watched two shows that I've recommended to him.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to it a fortnight. Kit coming back and raving about SWAT.
I might actually be raving. I mean, it's possible.
If you do watch it, please video yourself. And I think we've gone an hour and 40 minutes.
We have.
Probably at the end of tonight. I didn't think I was going to make it tonight. I've been quite washed. One was the word I was used when I emailed my editor. So I don't want to do videos. I feel pale and wan. And she just wrote back with you're in golf.
Just feel like a golf, yeah.
So it has been lovely having you here, Mike. Have you anything that you wish to plug before we go?
Well, I'm actually going to Whitby tomorrow, so I think I'm going to nick the foghorn.
Nice.
It's useless nicking it because it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, but I know people that hack space. I can get that
I
sorted.
was going to say, I would lay money Mike knows someone that can fix the foghorn, probably within 48 hours.
I was really disappointed to find out that quite sort of not that far into their history, foghorns were all replaced with tape recorders.
It's disgraceful.
I know, genuinely gutted.
They did the same thing with birds. Anyway, I will. If in terms of stuff to plug, so I have. If you like Warhammer 40,000 fiction, then I've got a bunch of that. My thing at the moment is the if you like space opera that's not at all vaguely similar to Firefly, then I've got the Keiko series. And at the moment, my epic fantasy series is coming out with Orbit. So the Black Coast came out at the beginning of the year, and the Splinter King came out more recently.
They're coming out really quickly, aren't they? Because COVID sort of messed everything up. Yeah,
because Black Coast was meant to come out last summer, but it kind of got pushed back for various reasons. So Black Coast came out in February, I think, and Splinter King came out in July, and these are the UK dates. I think it was March and September, respectively, for the US, and then I think but everyone's bringing out the Godbreaker at the same time, which will be summer next year. And I think the thing about Games Workshop is I don't know the release date, so they don't tell me. So I think I've got a novella, which I think is coming out before the end of the year, which I can't tell you about, and I've got at least 2 novels which are going to be coming out next year in the summer as well, I think. So that's going to be a very busy summer, and I can't tell you about them either. It's, they're books. They're going to be coming out, but I can't tell you what I wrote.
Just search the name Mike Brooks, and you'll find some books. And if you do it at some other day in the future, you'll find some more. That's literally how it works. I have an ever increasing number of books, most of which I can't talk about until Games Workshop actually say when they're coming out. Oh, someone's posted a link to my website in the chat. Why the hell would you do that? That means I need to update it.
That's why it was done, to guilt trip you into updating it.
It's because our audience are far more professional than we are.
That's so true.
I was just thinking today, I should really probably update my website now the books have come out, and I've just come back from FantasyCon. It's like, I'll wait until I get back from holiday. Yeah, no, that's not going to work, is it? Okay, if you go to my website now and it doesn't look like it's updated, that's because you've fallen through a time warp, and I'm not responsible. So yeah, that's me. I write stuff. While I'm here, I've also got a punk band called Interplanetary Trash Talk. If you look them up on Bandcamp, you'll find us. We've got 2 albums: Introduction to a Riot and Green Unpleasant Land.
Nice.
So if you want to hear me as one of 2 singers in a punk band that plays songs about serious subjects with silly titles, then yeah, you can do that.
I think technically that may have been burying the lead, Mike, but I'll let you off just this once.
And that is us done.
Bloody hell! It's Scott. I was going to say bloody hell, they're quick, but no, it's actually his job apparently.
Yeah,
I am the intern. It's my job to manage the links.
You,
if I do it properly, they give me extra custody.
I know that you have short hair, according to your picture, and you are efficient. And I'm not going to contrast this with Kit and RJ, but whereas I have long hair in the middle of my head and extremely short hair at the edges, so I kind of average out.
Rarely have I felt more seen. Or more called out. Well, thanks, I think, Mike, for coming.
Thank you
the
for
great
having
thing
me.
is, Kit gets the subtitle every episode.
Yeah,
that's true. And this
he
is going to be
literally
subtitled.
always gets the last word.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's just going to say in which Mike Brooks is wrong about Johnny Cash. That will be the end of it.
I am always and forever proudly wrong about Johnny Cash.
So, round of applause for Mike.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming along.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our next guest is in a fortnight, and I believe it's Stuart Hotston, who was a judge for the Clarks.
Yes.
Stuart London Marathon, Hotston.
Stuart London, yeah. Well, originally, Mike was going to do the 31st, which I'd set up, but it turned out
I wasn't spooky enough.
No, and we already had a guest. Which I
We
didn't
did
know about.
actually already have someone booked, which RJ, being the wonderfully organised human he was, had forgotten about.
Yeah, I
I'll let
literally
you off.
managed to double book the only time someone else has booked in a guest.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I asked Stuart to do that, but because Stuart is running the London Marathon, he didn't think he'd be up to do Writeopolis because he's just lazy.
Lazy.
So
lazy.
We will tell him that next time. But he was a Clark judge. He was also a British Fantasy Award judge. So I mean,
I've been on a panel with him, and it was hilarious. What? I'll save it for the show because it was really. But he's one of those people where I think I don't kind of care what the subject is. If he's on a panel, I kind of want to go to the panel because he's just so bright and engaged and thoughtful. And we'll, I'll always come out of it with at least 3 things I absolutely must remember and 2 more things I've written down to ask more questions about. He's great. So I'm really looking forward to getting him on the show.
Well done, keep bigging him up. And so that's next time. And yeah, we're done. Have you anything else, Scott, from your cupboard?
Scott's already gone. He's left.
No, I'm here. I have nothing in my cupboard. I don't know why you would think that.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Good night. I didn't see you there. Right, night, everyone. I'm gonna log out.
Night all.
Me too.
Bye, lovely people.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Writeopolis records alternating Sundays via Discord. To take part in future shows, visit patreon.com/Writeopolis podcast to find our server details. You can also support the show there in return for Discord perks and early access. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and spread the word. Thanks again. Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, it's Writeopolis, we're not just gonna kid, yeah.